Right, we've got Bob. It looks great. I'm getting a bit bored of my game though, because when I hit the play button to play my game, I can see Bob, and that's it. There's nothing else going on. I kind of want to be able to walk around and do stuff and so on and so forth. So that's the next step, is getting a player object in here. So someone who is actually running around, and it's called an FPS, so first person shooter, I guess. I'm not planning to shoot anything, but FPS. And what this means is that we need to go and get an asset, because there's a pre-built asset which has got everything that we want built into it to make a playability aspect to my game. So we need to go to the asset store, and when we're in the asset store, tum-ti-tum. There's so many assets in here. I can just scroll through the lot. They're all on sale. There's so many things. People make a living from making assets and then selling them. So if you wanted to make a game with, let's pick something fairly random. I don't know, stuff, these things. Then you can make a bunch of assets, sit down at home, and then sell them on the asset store. And yeah, it's good money. We're not going to spend any money though. We're going to just use what's the standard assets that were made by Unity people. And if I just go standard and hit enter to do the search, it shows me a bunch of stuff. Did I want Roman standards? No. I wanted, scroll, this lot here. See, it says standard assets made by Unity Technologies. And it's quite a nice little package. It's got things like vehicles, as you can see, their little graphic here. It's got this person here, Ethan. We might use him later. But the main thing that we want is this first person controller. So I'm going to click the import button because I've already downloaded it once. It tells me I've downloaded it. And then we might have to pause a minute. I might just, is it going to do it? It is, yeah. So there are many things. I really strongly recommend you don't import the whole lot to begin with. I kind of know that it's fun to play around with, but also you're going to be wasting a lot of time when you could be doing something useful. Definitely don't include the sample scenes anyway. Scrolling down, the only thing we were going to want are the characters. So I'm going to turn off all the 2D stuff, and cameras. Cameras don't. I'm going to keep the cameras. Characters, I definitely want the character. I want the first person character. I want all the characters. I found in the past that if I don't include third person characters, well, then you get problems. I'm going to include the cross-platform input, and pretty sure I don't want the editor or the effects. We can always re-import them later if we. It takes forever to import all of these things as well. That's another good reason for just unticking a whole bunch of stuff, is you're not going to be sitting waiting for a really unpleasantly long time. I'm going to keep those physics materials, they might be handy. I think that's it, pretty much, is it? What we've got, utility, we'll keep utility. I don't want the vehicles now. I know that a bunch of people will get into the vehicles at some point, but I just don't want to go through that import process. So there's a whole bunch of things happening here that will take about 10 times longer if you haven't unticked stuff. I might just pause while this goes on though. So I paused. I didn't have to pause very long. It's only like 10 seconds or so, because I didn't import all of the many other things. So what difference has this made? What it's done is in my assets folder, I now have my standard assets. And if I expand that tree a little bit and go into characters and go into first person character and go into prefabs, I've got these couple of things. Let's go back to the scene and we'll actually drop this in. So here's a new term, prefabs. It's like a prefabricated thing. Someone has made the thing that you're going to want and put it all together with all the different scripts and different parts that go into making anything that's useful, and prefab it into this. So I am going to drop this into my scene. Now I've got FPS controller and rigid body FPS controller. We're not going to do the rigid body. The rigid body is one where if you start adding a lot of physics to it, then you will need that. But we get by with what we've got right here. So I'm just going to take FPS controller, I'm going to just drop it in the scene right there. Let's just have a quick glance. Got FPS controller, where did it put it? 0, 0, 0. It's actually not a terrible place for it. And bizarrely enough, that's it. We now have a playable thing. So I'm using my mouse and I'm doing WASD, and I can look up and see Bob, who's floating up in the sky above me, and all great.